As I said, I promised this guest. I said within minutes. Perfect timing. Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla is with us.
What's up, fellas?
Hi.
It's good to see you, Joe.
How are you?
Thanks for stopping by the office today.
Thanks for fitting us in.
I know. It's great.
Busy day. Traveled last night. Came back off the road. All of it.
Yeah. I like this time of the year better. Like, you start getting into your routine. Like, you have, 3 or 4 different days. You have a game day, you got a off day, and then you have, the travel days. And so, you can organize your life a little bit easier once the season starts. And so, I like days like this.
Plus, you got your kids at school, too.
Yeah. Get to take the kids to school.
Yeah.
Get 'em out.
You know what you learn, though, is, you come home and you're all excited to hang out with them, but then they have their own lives, and, no one wants to hang out with you. So, I wake up this morning, and, I go downstairs and no one's home. And I'm like, what the hell?
McCarty and me.
Your whole life's supposed to stop for me. I'm home now.
I run this show. You're living under my roof. You're living by my rules.
It's I thought we were going to, sit down, talk to each other.
Yeah. No, you turn your back and they're all gone. They all leave the house.
Yeah.
What happened?
You ever do well, how was your day? Expecting some deep, thoughtful answer. Good. And then they turn around and walk away, and you're like, oh.
Or you get home and you think they're going to be excited to see you, and it's they walk right by you.
Yeah.
So humbling.
Yeah. It happens quickly, too, when it begins like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned this time of year, preseason. Do you feel like you've accomplished, as a team, all the things you wanted to do this preseason?
Yeah, up until this day, I couldn't have asked for it to go any better from, what our objectives were in the preseason. And, I think one of the goals we had was, sometimes since I've been in the NBA, training camp is a loose term where it could last a month or it could last up until the first preseason game. And I think it was important for us to have it last most of October. That way we could build our identity, build our mindset, build the things that we want to do. And so today's kind of the last day of training camp. Take tomorrow off, and then we kind of head into the next phase, of the season. And but yeah, I couldn't have gone any better.
Before we get into your big starting five, since we've talked to you, Peyton Pritchard still gets done. And that's a kid that there were rumblings that, hey, he wanted to leave, he didn't want to be here. But from a standpoint of, hey, I'm going to be here for a while, and I'm actually going to play and I'm going to shoot. How good was that to get Peyton done?
Well, first I think it was he's such a misunderstood guy because of how much he cares and how competitive he is. So I don't think it was ever I don't want to be here or anything. He's I just want to play. He just loves playing basketball. He loves competing, and he loves just working. And it's great that we've created a space to where, that type of mindset is kind of contagious and taking over the facility. And so, and I told him before, when he got the deal, many guys in his position don't even get the next deal because of how hard the league is, and it could eat you up and spit you out. And he's just mentally tough enough to work through it all. So, he's a reflection of kind of what we're trying to build, and it's great that we have him, and I love coaching him.
Well, let's not bury the lead either. Since we talked to you, Drew Holiday has joined the team.
Yeah.
I don't think we've had a chance to talk to you about that.
That's true, yeah.
No.
So you saw that coming the whole time. You could have tipped us off probably months ago and let us know that this was a possibility.
I actually didn't see it coming the whole time.
At that time, you didn't know.
At the time, I didn't know. I would have told you guys.
You see all the pieces on the chessboard.
You didn't know how the other moves were going to happen to facilitate that happening.
How dare you?
If there's anyone I would have told, it would have been you guys.
Thank you. Okay.
And I mean that non-sincerely.
I'll take it seriously.
Were you at all worried, though, when it went down? You're like, we got maybe too many guys who are going to be able to want the ball and get the ball and shoot the ball. I mean, it's a nice problem to have, but what were your first thoughts when you got the news?
Great. I mean, I wasn't worried at all. I didn't know him personally, but I knew of him, and we had some interactions, and I could just tell he's a man of faith, he's a man of character, and he's a talented basketball player. So I think anytime you can add that checklist and that combination, you can't have too much of those guys. And so I was excited about that. And at the end of the day, if you want to win, you have to have talent.
Yeah.
And it's about what you do when you have it, and that's up to us to kind of figure it out together. And so that's kind of the process we're in now, is figuring each other out. What's it look like? Everybody talks about the starting lineup, and I kind of talked about that last night, where it's listen, just because the 5 guys that are starting, that doesn't mean anything other than you can only start 5. If you could start 8, I'd put 8 out there. But we can't do this throughout the year, where it's the starting lineup is so important. It's 5 minutes of a 48-minute game.
Yeah.
Tatum's one of the best players in the league, and he comes out at the 7-minute mark. So he only plays the first 5 minutes, and so we have to look at the holistic as the 48-minute game, the locker room, how are we all working together to get the most out of each other and the most out of our roster.
So that was Tatum kind of sending that message the other day too, when he was talking about, hey, we all have to accept whatever these type of roles are going to be. And it's not just about one guy playing with one guy.
No, it's true. Like, the narrative's kind of been like, oh, this is, this guy, player X has to sacrifice for this. No, like, we all have to. Like, I do, the assistants do, like, everybody in the organization has to, sacrifice a little bit in order for us to grow as a team and get better. And, like, credit to the guys, they understand that. And, this locker room is willing to do whatever it takes to give us the best chance to win. That's all you can ask for.
Not only do you add Drew Holiday, but
the locker room's like a clan.
Van Gundy is a senior assistant now, like a senior advisor. How important is that for you guys, just to add another voice to see things?
It's really cool because he has a non-biased perspective towards our organization. And as this season goes on, it becomes hard at times to take a 30,000-foot view, because you're working with these guys every day, you're in it, and your staff gets in it, and everyone's just in it. And so to have a guy who can take a step back, see the organization from the outside, and kind of like, you date it back to like, he's almost scouting us so that we're going to know ourselves better than others because he's looking at us every single day, studying us. And he has a non-biased perspective, and it's like, here's what you're doing good, here's what you're not, here's what I see. And like that to me, that's like a huge weapon to have.
Going back a couple of weeks, I know you talked about end-of-game lineups and closing out games and how that needed to be figured out. And I sort of chuckled when I heard your answer because I'm like, how could this be hard? There's so many good players on this team. There seems to be this obvious closing lineup that you could now have. So why is it not obvious? Why does that require thought and whatever the matchups may be, and how do you figure that out? Who will be out on the floor to close out a game when you really need it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one, it's hard because, like, one, time and score. Like, are you winning or are you losing? Do you need to like score baskets? Do you need to get stops? What are the matchups? Is it a second night of a back-to-back? There's so many things that go into it. Like, and I think it's the other one of like there may be a right answer on paper, but like who's playing well that game? Like maybe the obvious lineup is the obvious lineup, but 2 or 3 of those guys might not be playing to where you need them to go at that, and you want to go into a little bit of a different direction because you kind of have a better feel for that particular game, And so I think that's the stuff that you just have to kind of navigate and pay attention to. And at the same time, listen, like you have to give guys an opportunity to finish games, to build that like reputation, to build that skill, to build the things you have to win the game and also think with the end in mind. And that's kind of the balance that you have to have, especially early in the season, is like we know what the obvious answer is, but we also gotta look at some different things so that we can be different when the playoffs come around or when the end of the season comes around. So you're trying to win, at the same time you're also trying to develop identities that you can use throughout the year.
I know we talked to you about it going into the postseason last year, but I mean it's cliche, and some people don't want to admit it, but it's a different game. Once you get from regular season to postseason, you guys had a fantastic regular season last year. We're able to find like another level and kind of reach down. So how do you manage like expectations of a long season? Like you said, you're kind of getting into the rhythm of it now, but this is only step one. A lot of these guys know this is only step one. Yeah, what's your message to the team as you kind of start down this journey that hopefully is not going to end until mid-late June of next year?
Well, I mean, I think that was a huge learning thing for me was like, last season I thought we started clicking really, really early and we got too good too fast and we never reinvented ourselves. We never found another way to be great, and it was just like we just developed the same identity the entire year. So that was good for me to see. And then like you realize, and yes, the playoffs regular season is different, and what that looks like from a execution standpoint, how much do you balance analytics in the regular season versus the playoffs? Like you just have to go through that to understand it. And so I think I have a better feel on that. But as far as the team, it's like it shouldn't matter. Like our habits, we should be working consistently throughout, right? And if we can treat the preseason like the regular season, and the regular season like the playoffs, and we have those habits, we have that mindset. At the same time, we can find small ways to like be a little bit different. I think that can help us.
So, just in what you're telling us, you are a firm believer in growth as a team, growth as individuals. How have you grown as a coach now, a full year in, and obviously having a more settled start to the season? Mm-hmm. How will you be a different coach this year than maybe what you were a day ago or a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, listen, for however long I do this, I hope I'm a different coach every year, because that means I've took what I was good at and what I wasn't and then learned. And I think that should be the case for as long as you do it. But I think, the most important thing was, like, I had time to figure out, like, okay, what do we want to be as an organization as me as the head coach. Like what's our philosophy? What's our daily approach? What's our environment like? What principles are we living by? I always like the phrase of like, this is what we do here. Like, how do you answer that? And like, how do you build that? How do you get to that? And so, I think it's just different because the team and I and the core players, we had an entire summer to communicate with each other about like, hey, how do we want to run this organization? It's not just my call. It's Tatum, it's Brown, it's Derek, it's Al, and guys that have been here for a long time. And it's like, what do we want to be? And how do we want to go about our day? And how do we want to approach the season and our organization? And so I think we have a shared vision as to what that looked like. And I think when things get hard, because they will, we'll be able to rely on that. And so that's kind of where I'll be different, is I feel much more comfortable expressing myself, who I am, what I believe in, and it's like now we have philosophies as an organization that we can hang on to.
I know a big part of that was you reached out to a lot of former players this offseason, and I know you've talked about this publicly already, but why was that important? Why was that important to get these guys in the fold and be more present and around the team?
Yeah, I mean, I just think like the Celtics are different than any other organization, and like Boston's different than any organization, and like you have to be able to embrace that. And so since I've been here, I always look at college teams. Like when college guys get drafted into the NBA, they always go back to their college in the off season, and like they build this culture. Like even at West Virginia, they built a alumni player locker room. So they all come back and they lift in the weight room, they're on the court, and then they get their own locker room in their facility. And I was like, we have too much talent, too much character, too much history and tradition to not have guys come back here all the time and spread their experiences and how they've carried the Celtic organization forward. And so we just have to open up that space and those doors as much as possible, because we're all in charge of the legacy, we're all in charge of the tradition, and we don't have this opportunity if the guys before us didn't carry it and build it forward. And now it's our job, it's our responsibility.
So it's like what you see those pictures of Pierce working out with Tatum, right? So it's all that you want. But after you had that first practice when you guys acquired Drew Holiday, Wick sat here, I think Pags was up here, Brad, and eventually we got to see Drew through the media, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's like the greatest practice ever." You wait until you see. How does that make you feel as a coach, where the owners are up here saying, "Oh my God, wait do you see this team play?"
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it goes back to like relax, day one.
I've never seen Wick so giddy. I mean, really, he hasn't seen a lot of things.
But I think it goes back to like when I this summer I spent a lot of time like when I would come into this building every day. How do we want to be? Like, what's the energy you want to feel, right? And you can't have that unless you have everybody on the same page and understanding about how we're going to run this organization. And you can't have it unless Tatum, Brown, Al, Derek, now Drew, and Brad and ownership, if we're not all aligned and we're not all have an understanding of, like, this is what Celtics basketball looks like on a consistent basis, then you can't create that. And so it starts with our guys. We've had a great training camp, and guys have said practices are hard, but they're only hard because they play hard. They're only hard because they go hard. They're only hard because they're competitive and they want to win and they want to do those things. And so it makes me say, like, hey, we're on the right track. Like, we're building this organization. We're building the identity of what this is and what Celtics basketball is.
Well, I've got some good news for us, maybe not great news for you, and that is...
I can only imagine what that is.
You're going to have to keep doing these interviews.
Yeah, I like that.
You're going to have to keep calling us. We're going to have to continue to come see you here.
We do like being here. Let that be known, because it has to work out with both sides. But
really?
we like being here.
And that is because the Boston Celtics have announced a multi-year broadcast extension with 98.5 The Sports Hub today.
Nice.
Wow. So you guys get an extension and I haven't yet? That's crazy.
No, we don't get an extension.
Oh, okay.
We got to give them the paper park in here.
Just, Joe, we were already named a radio station before last year. You only got named the head coach last year. So, one step at a time.
Sean Grandy and Cedric Maxwell will continue to be the voices of the team's broadcast. Building off more than 2 decades already calling Celtics games. The Celtics Show with Jim Murray and Chris Gasper will be heard Saturdays at noon all season. Cerrone Battle will be joining Joe Murray after broadcast during the week after a game. And we will continue this partnership between 98.5 The Sports Hub and the Boston Celtics. And select games will be on Rock 92.9 as well, which I know Hardy's very excited about.
I'm also on Rock 92.9 in the afternoon, so I'll get to preview some Celtics games when there are conflicts and you guys are over there. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And you have to keep doing the interview with us.
I get to keep doing the interview.
All right, Joe. Thanks, buddy.
Hey.
Appreciate it, man.
We should get together and do a clam bake sometime.
Oh, you want to?
What items do you have? What do you put in the pot in a plate?
Where are we going?
Clam bake.
Where are we going to do that?
Well, I think you bury
It has to be in the state of Rhode Island.
I think is a clam bake actually something in a pot, or you like bury it in the sand?
Oh, you got to bury it.
Okay.
It's got to be
Clam
down on the
bakes.
ground.
It's got to be in seaweed. You need seaweed. You need shovels.
Or you can go quahogging. I used to love that when I was a kid.
Quahog chowder's very good.
Yeah.
Gives you gas, though.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, fellas. We'll see you.
All right, Joe.
Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla. And again, the partnership between the Boston Celtics and 98.5 The Sports Hub continues, and Joe will be with us all season long.